Let's talk about optimized targeting. It's a controversial Google Ads feature. Google says it's great, but a lot of advertisers don't like it. I think it has its place, but only if you meet certain criteria. And in this video, I'm going to explain when you should and shouldn't use it. So let's start by talking about what optimized targeting actually is. Optimized targeting is a feature that allows Google to turn your targeting inputs into signals, into suggestions, as opposed to hard rules that you want Google to follow. So without optimized targeting, you set up your targeting criteria, and it's going to vary depending on campaign, and we'll talk about the different campaign types in a minute. But you're saying to Google, look, I only want to advertise to people that meet these criteria, that are interested in this, that have this search activity, or I only want my ads to be shown on these content locations, if it's display, for example. Okay. Now, with optimized targeting, Google goes, great, thank you for that information. We will use that as a signal, as a suggestion. That'll give us direction in terms of where your ads are placed or who they're put in front of. But it also gives Google the flexibility to put your ads in front of other people that fall outside of that criteria if Google believes that that person is likely to convert, likely to become a lead, likely to become a sale, particularly potentially a high value one. So it gives Google a lot of flexibility. So let me show you what this looks like. So I'm in the sort of campaign creation setup process for a demand gen campaign here. And we can see that once we get to the ad group level, I haven't bothered with any of the other, ad group settings. I've got other campaigns to talk about that. But if you scroll down beneath this audience section, you'd normally set up your audience in here, right? Audiences allow you to reach people based on who they are, interest, habits. Like, we understand what audiences are for the most part. And then beneath that, we have this optimized targeting section. You can see that it is turned on by default, and you can see that Google's pushing this quite hard, right? Optimized targeting helps you get more conversions within your budget. Google may find people beyond your selected audience. And we've got a few options here. Obviously, we can leave it as is. We can select this option here, which is only show ads to people within my age and gender specifications. So it's saying, look, the other targeting criteria, you can sort of go beyond those and use those suggestions, but these two, age and gender, I want those to be fixed. We can go ahead and select that, or we can go ahead and turn the thing off altogether. And that's what this video is going to be about. Which one of these options should you be using? I'll go back to the default, which is to have this switched on. Okay, so when can you use optimized targeting? Because it's not available in all scenarios, and let's sort of start there. So it's turned on by default with display campaigns and demand gen campaigns. I know a lot of my audience have started with demand gen campaigns on Google. That was very much designed to be the Google campaign type that would appeal to other advertisers on different platforms, like Meta advertisers, for example, which I have a large audience in, and they could come into Google Ads, they could set up a demand gen campaign, they'd be able to use all the creative assets that they use for their Meta ad campaigns. It'd be really quick and easy to set up. They don't need to learn search or anything like that, like they might with other campaign types. So I know a lot of my audience is using demand gen. So it's turned on by default with demand gen and with display. And in terms of what it does, optimized targeting, a little bit different depending on which one of those two you're using. So with display campaigns, optimized targeting goes beyond your content targeting. So display ads, quick reminder, is going to be where your ads appear alongside content on lots of different websites and apps all over the internet. You see display Google Ads all the time. And so you give inputs like certain keywords, topics, placements, things like that. You're saying, this is where I want my ads to show. This is where I think I'll get the best results. So with optimized targeting on, Google is going to use those as a suggestion, as a signal, but potentially go beyond that if they feel they can find other people that will get you great results. And that makes sense, because if someone is the type of person to be interested in your product or service, even if they're on a website looking at something that is completely unrelated to what it is that you offer, but they're the right type of person, still might be a good idea to put an ad in front of them in that scenario, right? And then demand gen, we just showed you an example of you've set up your audience in a demand gen campaign, and optimized targeting is going to allow Google to go beyond that. So there are also some other criteria you need to meet to be able to use optimized targeting. Before I get into that, I just want to quickly let you know about our done for you Google Ad services. So my company can create, manage, and optimize your Google Ad campaigns for you. We can take that workload off your hands if you are managing it yourself and it's taking up a lot of time, or take that workload off an agency you might be working with that's not delivering the results you might want. We've spent tens of millions on the platform. We do this all day, every day, worked with thousands of clients over a decade, very much know what we're doing, so we'll almost certainly be able to get you significantly better Google Ad results. If that sounds interesting, there is a link in the video description. Click on that, come through to a page on our website, book in a free, no obligation call with one of my team members, and hopefully we get a chance to work together. Now, you can only use optimized targeting with certain bidding strategies as well. Now, these are the bidding strategies I would recommend you use anyway. So it's going to be with conversions, conversions value, target CPA, or target ROAS. Basically, conversion-based bidding strategies where Google is not optimizing for a top of funnel metric, but something lower down the funnel. And that makes complete sense, because if Google is going to go beyond your targeting, beyond your content placement options, they need to know that what you need to know as an advertiser, that they are doing that because they are trying to get you more of what you've told Google you want, which is a conversion. You would not want them to do that if you're maximizing for clicks and they just put your ads in places that get loads of clicks and might be completely irrelevant to what it is that you're looking to advertise. Those people won't turn into leads or sales. So very important that you only use one of these bidding strategies, one of these conversion-based bidding strategies when it comes to using optimized targeting. And if you want to know more about bidding strategies, by the way, I'll include a link in the video description to another video on that breaks down the various options, which ones you should use out of those that I've talked about. Now, optimized targeting is, you'll be quite familiar with it. It's quite similar to the process used with Performance Max campaigns. So with Performance Max campaigns, you provide audience signals to Google as opposed to hard constraints with your targeting. And then Google goes out and does its thing and takes that information. It's like, great, that gets us started. That gives us direction on who to advertise to. Let's now go ahead and try and get you the best results possible according to your bidding strategy. Now, Performance Max, just like with optimized targeting, comes under some criticism from Google advertisers. Typically old school advertisers that were used to the way things used to be, where you had to do everything manually yourself and it was all about you and you couldn't put that much trust in Google's machine learning process and algorithm to get you the best results. Times have very much changed. And I do think that it's important for us Google advertisers to start trusting Google more and realize that our incentives are aligned for the most part, right? We, us advertisers, are Google's customers. Every business wants to deliver a good product or service for their customers. Why? Well, you probably want to do the right thing, but on top of that, there's selfish reasons. If Google gets us good results, we stick around and we keep giving them money. If Google gets us good results, we spend more with them, we scale up our campaigns, we give them more money. So this idea that Google might not be looking out for our interests as an advertiser is just silly. Now, there might be certain points where Google recommends something that isn't good for our specific campaign or our specific strategy, and you don't want to go with the standard recommendations. That does happen. But just as a general overall thought, Google wants us to get leads. Google wants us to get sales, because if we do that, we pay them more. Everyone wants their customers to get great results, right? Because that helps them succeed as a business. So I thought that was just important to say. Now, in a second, I'm going to talk about when you should and shouldn't use optimized targeting. Before I do that, I want to let you know about Hyros. Hyros is fantastic tracking and attribution software and can really help you improve your Google Ad results. It's a software that all the big players in the industry use, including myself. I use it to track results for my own ads across multiple platforms, including Google Ads, and all my organic results as well, which is super helpful. So if someone, for example, comes through and books a call for our done for you services, I can see exactly where that person came from. This is particularly important if you're running ads across multiple channels or generating customers organically as well. Without accurate data, you are flying blind, and knowledge is power. So if you want to improve the performance of your Google Ad campaigns and be able to see exactly where your leads and sales are coming from, go ahead and sign up to Hyros. There is a link in the video description. So, should you use optimized targeting with your display and demand gen campaigns? What's my recommendation here? I think, just like with Performance Max, it is a good feature and it is something you want to use, but not with a brand new ad account. Just like with a Performance Max campaign, Google needs conversion data to be able to do this properly. How is Google going to be able to go beyond your targeting criteria, your content selections, if they don't know who converts, what a conversion looks like, how many impressions someone needs to convert, all the various data points that they need to be able to get you those results. And that's why I rarely recommend that brand new Google advertisers run Performance Max campaigns. Is a similar reason, right? Start with something else and then look to add in a Performance Max campaign once you've got some conversions. How many conversions? The more the better. The more data Google has, the better they're going to be able to do this, the better results you're likely to get. As a rough rule of thumb, I'd say once you've got more than 100 conversions, then you could look to either create a Performance Max campaign or, as is relevant to this video, go ahead and turn on optimized targeting. You do want to go ahead and turn on optimized targeting at some point. You will, once you've got that conversion data and Google is able to go and do its thing properly, you are likely to see better results. And I should quickly say, if we jump back in to this optimized targeting section, that when you try and turn this off, even with a new campaign and a new ad account, Google's going to try and dissuade you from doing so. So if you limit it to just age and gender, which that might be a halfway house and appropriate for your business as well, by the way. If you're seeing that you turn on optimized targeting and all of a sudden you're getting this more appropriate for leads typically than it would be for sales, because a sale's a sale, right? But a lead more or less likely to convert depending on, you know, the person and potentially their age, potentially their gender, potentially other factors. So you might want to go ahead and select that as an option. Even when we do this, Google's saying by only optimizing targeting, you may be limiting your campaign performance. And if, you know, they say an average of 20% more conversions by using optimized targeting, that's a big deal, by the way. 20% is no joke. And if you go ahead and turn it off, again, Google's going to sort of have that warning of like, you're missing out on 20% extra. I think that's true, but not with a brand new ad account with very limited conversions. That is a significant difference there and something that we need to be aware of. Like everything else, testing is important. So I've given you a rough guideline of what I would recommend you do. If you get to the point you turn on optimized targeting and you see your results are significantly worse, you don't have to use it even with more conversion data. Maybe it's something you test again in the future. You go, okay, didn't work this time. Maybe we've got 150 conversions. Maybe that's just not enough. Let's retest once we've got 500 conversions. Let's retest once we've got 1,000 conversions, because I can tell you now, the more data that Google has around who buys, when they buy, what time of day, how many impressions, all that sort of stuff, the better all these sort of expansion type features, including optimized targeting, are able to perform. You can always go ahead and scurry back, as it were, to what you were doing previously, no matter what setting change you make. And I can't actually show it within this ad account as an example, unfortunately, because it's an example ad account. We don't have the data, but you can go in and you can take a look and see how your original audience, like what you've selected as targeting, performs from, say, a return on ad spend or a cost per conversion basis in comparison to the people Google has expanded your audience to. So when Google's gone beyond the signals you've given, how that expanded part performs as well. So really, really useful data. You can just go ahead, take a look at that within your Google ad account and assess, is this working, is this not? And like I said, adjust what you're doing depending on the data that you see. And if you want more Google Ads tips like this to help you get the best results possible, please go ahead and subscribe.